Hi, and welcome to another edition of We Review Races with Billy and Sam. This is the, what? It's not Down Under edition because that would be Australia. This is the New Zealand edition for the World Championships.
I mean, we are on the southern hemisphere.
Count it down.
I mean, it's under the equator, right? Under where we normally are. All right, anyway, I did not participate in this race. Somebody qualified and somebody else didn't qualify. But we're going to interview Sam and get all of his ideas and tips and information.
Thoughts?
Yeah.
When given the opportunity, like if you just barely qualify for the World Championships, do not expect to pass people. Is really probably the right the mindset that you need to go in there. Race your race. It's a great opportunity for race your race.
All right, so let's get into the check-in and the race and stuff like that, because this is going to be a little bit different than what most races are. So let's talk about check-in.
All right, so check-in for me was actually very difficult. Side note, Ironman took my money. They did not keep the reservation. So
It's
you'll
supposed
notice
to have his name
there's
under.
no name under here. So I had to get re-signed up on the day of the race. Ironman did get me signed up, but none. They give you a bag tag, and then of course, and everything has your name on it. So I had none of that. But check-in, if you were set, was all smooth. We did not get a challenge coin, like heavy metal coins. When we qualified, instead they gave them to us at the race. So we did still get a challenge coin because I didn't think we were going to get one of those.
Yeah, I mean, we got one of those for South Africa, and we
Yeah.
got that as soon as we got the spot and signed
Yeah.
up, and that was pretty cool. And then when you signed up, after you qualified, they gave you like a little certificate or something, which was, we were looking at that and we were kind of like, wow, are they cheaping out?
Yeah.
But I guess you had to qualify and show up to the race to be able to get the coin.
Oh, that was cool. They do not give you. I just got a swim cap, so that was all you got was the coin and the swim cap.
So you had to finish the race to get any of the good
any
stuff.
swag. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Backpack.
You did get a backpack.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we got a nice backpack, and it is
Not.
packed.
Oh, okay.
We'll show a picture, I guess. So, sorry, professionalism. It's always important here at Iron Fan Productions. So this is the World Championships. The women race on Saturday, the men race on Sunday. So you have to be checked in. They start the check-in early, but you have to be checked in at least by Friday. I checked in Wednesday.
Thursday. I think.
Thursday.
Yeah.
There was still plenty of stickers, plenty of all of the stuff at the tent for merch was all still there.
They were super busy with World Championship gear, and the whole tent, the whole village was busy, but that tent, they were doing some business. And the line to check out at one point was pretty long, and we were looking at it and be like, oh, you're going to be in that forever? They had like 10, 12 people checking you out. I mean, they were moving through it really quick. So that was good.
So this is now that we've participated in 2 World Championships, I feel like it's now the pattern, but it will be a bagged race. So you had a swim bag, bike bag and run bag, and you dumped your gear into it.
So you got all that at check-in.
So you got your bags and your stuff. So the women racing the first day have a different. Their bags go to a different rack, and then the men's bags go on. So when you're checking in your bike, you check in your bag. This was important. You do not have access to either of your bags on race day. Your bike, you have access to. Your bags, you can't get out of. So if you need any nutrition or anything in that bag, you need to bring it with you.
Okay, so let's talk about bike drop-off, bag drop-off, all of that. When did you do that?
So for the men, basically the women have to have finished their race, and then the men drop off. So it started at 3:45, I want to say, on Saturday, and it went to like 10 p.m. here.
Okay.
So you had tons of time to be able to do it. There wasn't any rush. yeah, there was really no problems with that. But you dropped off your bike, you dropped off your 2 bags, and then you were done.
Did you rack your bike yourself?
Yes.
Did they take pictures of you and everything going in?
No, they didn't do that this
Okay.
year.
Okay.
That is a good question.
I mean, they must not be having trouble with people stealing
Yeah,
bikes.
we're on an
I guess.
island. They can only go so far.
Okay, so Saturday, but the Sunday race, Saturday before, you dropped off your bags, and once you dropped those off, no other access. You racked your bike, but the next morning you can go and pump up your tires a little bit more if you wanted to.
Yeah, and I put all my nutrition in my bike, so I got bike set up Sunday morning.
Okay, so let's talk about. So that was Saturday night. Sunday morning coming in. What was that like?
I was a little worried about parking because I'm always worried about parking because every race is tight. There was a ton of parking. Some of it may not have been as good for the girls' race because you had guys racing the next day, so they still had their cars. But there was plenty of parking early. We saw people parked like on the street as we were leaving. So if you came in late, you were probably parked further away. But we got there at about 5:30. And there was plenty of parking very close to transition.
So there's no giant parking lots. This is all street parking and lots within the towns.
There is one pretty good size parking lot and has a shuttle.
Okay.
And it's up by the athlete village.
Okay.
So not super convenient for bringing your race stuff back and forth, but especially for spectators would be perfectly fine. But the shuttle bus was running all day and was fantastic. So yeah, it still was not massive like we would be used to. So it looked like they had plenty of parking.
And I think it was all paved. I mean, there's not like big grass lots.
Yeah, that was what it was. Was just a giant
big grass? Okay,
field.
I got you. Okay, so that's the morning. All right, so let's talk about your morning. Did you go to your bike?
Yes. Checked on my bike, pumped up my tires, got everything ready, got all my nutrition ready to rock. I needed some help. I had some nutrition I wanted to put into my run bag. You're not allowed in there, but the announcer helped me out. So he took my bottle and put it in for me. He was doing that for a few other guys, though. They were trying to be as accommodating as they could.
Good for them. Good for them. All right, so you got there for the swim start. Or like before the swim started. So they had like a show and stuff before the swim started. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was super cool. They had a group of Maori. I have pronounced this poorly. I have pronounced this entire country poorly. So I go ahead and apologize to the good people of New Zealand for my poor pronunciation. But the Maori did a haka, like the dance. You'll see it, especially we all know it from the All Blacks rugby team does it before the games. It was amazing. They were in traditional garb. They came in on a war canoe. That was really amazing to see, and they were incredibly intense.
Then they did, from my perspective, they did the New Zealand national anthem in Maori, and then again in English.
Yeah.
So I mean, it made it a longer national anthem, but it was pretty cool to hear it both ways. Anything else prior to the swim start?
No. All of that was fairly standard. This is so. They do. It looks what we've decided is they do their biggest group. So somehow I was in the biggest group again, and then they do their 70 and up. So you're the age groups, there's a big difference. You can't control it. It is you're self-seating within your age group, but you can't control when your age group is going to go. And so there was, what is it, 2.5, 3 hour difference between the first swimmers going in and the last swimmers going in. So there were people, professionals, on the run course while there were swimmers coming out of the water. That big of a difference.
So there was definitely, I mean, to give you an idea, the pros, I think the first pro was off his bike before the last swimmer got in the water. That's how much of a difference there is. And I mean, because there were people walking, I mean, Sam was early, we had watched him finish, and we had gone to McDonald's, and there were some guys using the bathroom in McDonald's prior to doing their swim. I mean, it was I mean, as we're coming in, we see people just kind of slowly walking, and we're like, "Hey, this swim start's about to start." But I mean, they might have had 2 or 3 hours before they had to actually get in the water.
Yeah.
So it was a long. I think they said 3,800 people raced, and they were doing 8 people every 12 seconds. So I mean, you just do the math and see how long that takes to get everybody in the water. But you know, I guess that's how they had it divided up with age groups. So it wasn't self-seating where you thought that you were going to be. I guess because everybody would push towards the front. So that was I actually liked that. It was self-seating within your age group.
Yeah.
So that was good. So tell us about the swim itself.
Our water's brisk.
67 degrees, I think is what it was.
On race day. The water is unbelievably clear. I'm sure it looks beautiful from the cameras, but I could see people's swim caps, and I mean they were deep, where they had lost their caps, and you could see it on the bottom of the lake. But it's a big lake, and they call it like the Great Lake of New Zealand. So it's big. It's not Great Lakes big, but enough to have. There was some serious chop out there.
It calmed down by the time you had finished, but when we were looking at it, when they were doing the canoe coming in, it was pretty choppy, and we were like, "Ooh, this
is gonna be a little rough." People, even at the World Championship, still cannot sight. Do not trust anybody ever. Is the absolute truth.
How did you swim it? What was your theory? What was your strategy?
I keep avoiding people. I mean, there was some bumping. There was rubbing and bumping happening. So then I picked my buoy and just kept sighting in on that buoy, and whatever happened. But yeah, there was a few. I mean, even late in the swim intersections of people just wanting to swim right or wanting to swim left. We came around that last buoy, the second turn buoy. And it's not a 90-degree turn. It was more. So I come around the buoy and I'm like, man, I don't see anything. And so finally the kayaker is pointing. This way.
So it was an out, over, and back, but you're saying that the back was more than a 90-degree turn.
To swim back came around that, and I'm looking for the rest of the buoys that's just going. They had... The buoys were 100 yards apart, but they were super tall. Those were fantastic. Those were absolutely the best buoys I've ever seen.
Okay. I think I counted like 18 of them. I think they had numbers 1 through 18 on them.
I swear I either swam super fast through one or I lost one, but their internal number counting, right? Because it had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I swear I lost number 5. There was between 5 and 7. I don't know. There was a number missing that suddenly it was like 5 to 7, and
you're like, "Ooh, caught a current."
It's really throwing my count off. So yeah, it was the swim was very cool.
Seems like it was one color out and another color back, just like standard Ironman. But was it yellow out and red back?
Red out. I thought it was orange, but through my glasses it could have been any color. But yes, it was definitely yellow on one side and.
So halfway you changed color, so you knew you were over halfway done. Okay, coming out of the swim.
Whew, that is a hill. They had strippers, but you got your wetsuit off and then you climbed. I mean, it was a pretty steep hill, and then you went over the bridge, and then they had people warning you going down the bridge was slick, and so they were getting everybody to walk going down. So just be aware when you see somebody walking.
Was there a railing or anything you told them to? Or
no. I mean, it was too far away, and they had carpet. Kudos to Ironman. Now you know they can. They did carpet from the swim exit all the way to transition. Okay. And it was super long.
It was very long.
So we know Ironman has the carpet now.
So the first pro to finish the swim and get on his bike, it was a 2-minute and 10-second transition, which is super fast. But for a pro is super long.
Yeah. I think mine was like 7 minutes, but according to my watch. Yeah. So yeah, it was a long way.
All right, so you get out of the swim onto the bike. Did you physically get your bike?
Yes, okay. Yes. You grab your bag. They have tons of chairs, which is always appreciated. Put on your stuff. Most people didn't use them because we're in the World Championships. I enjoyed my little seat. Took a little, me time. But grab your bike. The volunteers did great on the dismount line. You started on a climb, so when you're prepping your bike, make sure that you're not, unless you just are superhuman and like to be in the hardest gear, but put it in a medium gear to plan on climbing. That we're on an island. The roads were well maintained. It's we call it chip seal. It is a low tar road, which makes it bumpy, right? So that aggregate you're going over. Parts of the roads were fantastic. Parts of the roads were farm roads, but they were all in good condition. There wasn't potholes everywhere that you're hitting it, but it is just rough. The swim course, and we talked to a man afterwards, the swim course and substantially the run course are the same for Taupo. Sorry.
That's okay.
Were the same as the normal race here. The bike course they changed significantly because for the World Championships they find the biggest hill they can and send you up it. And in true Ironman fashion, they did that. So it was like a 500-foot climb very early, and it was long. So it wasn't
separating the men from the boys.
It wasn't terribly steep. It was just long.
Yeah.
So there was no part where I felt like I needed to get off and walk. Or Pennsylvania was certainly harder, but as a hilly course, they found the biggest hills they could, and they definitely sent you up them. But
so the chip seal roads. I mean, just if you've never been on a chip seal road, it's just hard. It's just more resistance on the tires, really, is what it is, and just makes it hard.
So it certainly added. I'll have to go back and look at my power numbers. It'll be interesting to see. It adds some complications to it.
Anything other than the road condition? Anything on the bike that was super unusual, or?
No, they did not have a ton of. I feel like they had less. I want to call it bike support. Right, mechanics than usual, than I'm used to seeing. But they had closed down. All of the roads were completely closed to us. So they did, kudos to Ironman for that. We had tons of room. I never felt like I was uncomfortably tight. They had a couple of sections where there was no passing because you went down to a single lane bridge. But they kept those just as short as they could.
Was this right on the left, pass on the right? Or was it right?
Yeah, right on the left, pass on the right.
Okay. So remember that. I mean, the driving's different here.
Yeah, and I have a habit anytime I need to expectorate of looking right, because when you spit, you're so one guy was like, "You almost got me, dude. I'm sorry."
So the aid stations were on your left also.
Aid stations
so
were on the left.
You would want to practice getting with your left hand as opposed to your right.
Yes. Yeah. And there was like the bottle drops. I like to kick bottles off the road, and my left foot is no good, so I never could help with that. But they did have very nice bottles. Their electrolytes tasted different, so nothing new on race day. But the bottles I liked, so I was taking those bad boys. As I was wondering, generally in races outside of the U.S., they will have very nice water bottles. So you can plan to bring a crappy water bottle that you can toss and keep their nice ones. And this was the same. They had great logoed water bottles.
Getting off the bike, coming into transition, how did that work?
Yeah, coming into transition, they had people take your bike. So you got off of the bike, and then they took it and they racked it. So you never had to deal with that. As soon as you crossed the line, they took your bike and you went straight to get your run gear bag. So really, always is super nice when they have enough volunteers to be able to pull that off. It's great. But the volunteers were fantastic. They were everywhere. The aid stations for the bike were plenty long. You had, I don't know, maybe 8, 10 people out there with electrolytes. You had water, the same number of waters. I can't say enough for race preparation. They did great. Start out on the run, and this run was billed as flat. We already know that they lie. This was not a flat run. This was a hilly. For Florida, this was a hilly run. For everybody else, it was probably low hills. But you were constantly going up and down. There was no like long flat stretch. So the run was a 2-loop. You came out and kind of went through town, and did a U-turn there, came back in, and then went to the other side and basically a giant lollipop or balloon, and came back and then did that twice. It's less than a kilometer. It's half a mile, 0.6 of a mile for our American friends. That you came up to the finish line. So you got to see that thing three times.
Yeah, you did see the third time you saw the finish line. You got to go. Yeah.
So that's always fun. But the run was really good. Plenty of space. They did a great job. Same thing. Roads were completely closed. I'm sure we highly inconvenienced the people of Taupo, but it was fantastic. So a little breeze was really nice. You got some wind off the lake, but not enough that you were feeling any pressure.
It was warm, and it got warmer throughout the day, and so the people in the rear got the shaft. They really did.
It was supposed to get to 80. I'm sure it did. It was going to be hot.
And the sun just in New Zealand, the sun just beats harder. I know the ozone's thinner down here, but for whatever reason, make sure you bring your sunscreen. Okay, finish line. How the finish line shoot?
Really interesting. So people did really good job about spacing themselves out. You had 1 or 2 people that decided to fly up. We weren't winning. I wasn't worried, but right, spacing yourself out for the picture and then the whole deal. So tons of support the whole way. One dude had a giant trash can that he had outfitted with speakers with a whole car stereo system, and so there was music the whole way around. People were very excited. Cheering was fantastic. You came to the finisher chute, and there's a lot of people, but you got your picture, and then they immediately gave you somebody. So that person put on your medal and gave you the towel, and then guided you. So you got the towel. Sorry. So the World Championship towel, which is very cool. And then your medal, which is about 12 pounds of actual metal. This thing's huge.
Got a hat.
And then they guided you to get your hat and shirt. So finisher hat. It's nice.
So it's the same style hat as what we've been getting through the other 70.3 races this year.
Yeah, they added this little
Ironman
on the side, so that'd be really neat if they kept that.
And this is a patch, I guess, here.
So cool little detail underneath the hat. So you walked over and you asked what size you were. So they were checking on you is really what they were doing as they're guiding you through that. And then you got the shirts. So you told them what size the shirt was, and they had just tables out of what you needed. And then they handed you off to another person who then took your chip. But you were guided the whole way through to make sure that you were okay. So kudos to that. They did. So then you went into the meal tent. They're really strong on meat-based pies here. So you had lots of option of meat-based pies after you run a half Ironman. And then had pizza and had Coke and like a protein shake. Then some other stuff. Nothing that I was super into. But then you went after you exited that. you had all of your people there meeting up. So,
all right. So anything that you would want to tell people that you didn't expect that happened? I mean, any tips or anything that you'd be like?
it's a good question. I don't. It was a fairly straightforward race. I'd certainly drive. Lots of people chose to bike the entire bike course. Drive the bike course. There are some steep descents. One of them is. I mean, it's got some minor turns. But I got up to 45 miles an hour going downhill. And, I mean, you're cooking. And so you could, seeing it and knowing it, there's a couple more descents that were also pretty good but had some more turns, so you did need to slow down. Ironman had a great signage warning them, so you could go in and do this race blind. But certainly the preparation, you had the opportunity. They had group swims from early, I want to say it was like 7 to 11, but if you missed that, you could just swim in the lake. So I was the day we were there, I was like, well, we missed the swim. Later, I realized that it's just a public beach. You can just go swim. You can't swim the exact course, but there were buoys. So certainly preparation there. They did a really great job. Prepare for the heat. This was hotter than anyone expected. So
apparently if you're using this race as a to do Taupo, it's usually in March. The temperatures are different.
Okay, good.
So we're in the beginning of summer now, and that's their beginning of fall. But they said that the temperatures are usually milder. So are we doing ratings, or how are we?
I mean, it's the World Championship. They did a fantastic job. The only thing I'd take away is on the roads, but that's not really anything that.
And that's going to vary from World Championship to World Championship. There's going to be different roads everywhere.
Yeah. So they did a fantastic job. I don't know how you don't give this a 7 banana. It's amazing. If you have the opportunity to participate in the World Championships, do it. It is absolutely very cool. It is a humbling experience. I'm sure for probably everybody that does it, because even the best in your age groups racing against the pros, and so there's
there's always somebody better.
But it's an incredible opportunity to see how do you stack up on the same day on the same course against the best in the world. That's very cool.
Awesome.
So thanks guys for watching. We're working on our races for next year, so stay tuned.